My name is Mara Ellison, and at my parents' 40th anniversary dinner, they called me a charity case in front of 30 people. I had brought them a navy leather folder, one I had restored myself using my grandmother's old sewing tools. My mother glanced at it for half a second, placed it beside the flower arrangements like it was a restaurant menu, and asked the whole room when I was finally going to stop embarrassing the family. My father made it worse. He slid the folder back toward me with 2 fingers and said, "We don't need another handmade pity gift from you. Take it home." 30 people heard him. I did not cry. I did not shout. I did not defend myself. I smiled. Then I told them what was inside the folder. And what happened over the next 48 hours is the reason my family still does not talk about that dinner without lowering their voices. Before I get into it, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. I always like knowing who is here when a quiet person finally stops asking to be understood. Now, about that folder. My parents' anniversary party was held at the Rosemere Hotel, the same hotel they had dreamed of owning for most of my childhood. It sat on the old main street of Belhaven, a 3-story brick building with arched windows, brass lamps, and a lobby floor that still held the original black and white marble tiles from 1912. My mother called it family legacy. My father called it proof of class. To me, it had always been the place where everyone else in the family got celebrated. My older brother Gavin had his engagement party there. His wife Elise had her baby shower there. My parents hosted charity dinners there, business lunches, campaign events, and every holiday party that required polished shoes and forced smiles. But I had never been honored in that building. Not once. I arrived at 4 in the afternoon because my mother had asked me to help with small things. Small things meant carrying boxes, fixing place cards, checking the candles, and making sure the waitstaff knew which relatives could not sit near each other. That was always my position in the family, not guest, not daughter, utility. I parked my dusty gray pickup behind the hotel kitchen, next to the delivery entrance. The truck was 12 years old and had mud on the tires from a site inspection I had done that morning. Inside the cab, rolled drawings, a hard hat, and a pair of safety boots sat on the passenger floor. Gavin's black Mercedes was parked at the front entrance under the hotel awning. Of course it was. My mother saw me come through the side door, carrying the leather folder against my chest. She looked at my work jacket first, then my boots, then the folder. "Mara," she said, not hello. "You could have at least changed before coming here." "I came straight from a job site." She gave a tight smile. "That is exactly what I mean." My mother, Vivian Ellison, had the gift of turning every sentence into a needle. She never raised her voice when she could cut more cleanly by staying calm. The folder in my hands was old navy leather, cracked at the corners but polished carefully. I had found it in my grandmother's sewing room after she died. The stitching had come loose, so I repaired it by hand. I replaced the inner lining, cleaned the brass clasp, and pressed a small silver letter E into the corner. Ellison, fought, family name. I thought that would matter. Inside the folder were 3 documents my parents had wanted for years. Even if they did not know I was the one who had secured them, my mother pointed toward the gift table near the ballroom doors. "Just put it there. We'll open presents later." It is not exactly a present. She had already turned away. By 6, the ballroom was full. My parents had invited relatives, hotel investors, old neighbors, church friends, my father's golf partners, and people my mother called important to maintain. The center table was decorated with white roses, gold chargers, crystal glasses, and a framed photo of my parents on their wedding day. My seat was not at that table. My seat was near the back, beside the speaker stand and the children's activity bags. There was no place card. Just a chair. I found it because my mother pointed at it from across the room. "Mara, you're over there." I looked at the main table. Gavin and Elise were seated beside my parents. Elise's parents were there too, Aunt Lorna, Uncle Pete. Even my cousin Raymond, who had not returned a family phone call since 2019, had a seat at the main table. I had a chair beside the children's crayons. "I'm 34, I said. My mother smiled like I had made a joke. "Then behave like it." Aunt Lorna laughed. A few others smiled into their glasses. Nobody corrected her. That was how humiliation worked in my family. My parents never needed everyone to participate. They only needed everyone to stay quiet. I sat. My cousin Jessa appeared 10 minutes later with 2 plates and sat beside me without asking. Jessa was 26, sharp-eyed, and allergic to family nonsense. "Back row royalty again?" she said. "Apparently." She looked toward the gift table. "Is that yours? The leather thing?" "Yes, looks expensive." "It is not." "Looks like it means something." I looked at my mother across the room, glowing under the chandeliers while Gavin told a story that made everyone laugh. "It does," I said, "but that depends on who opens it." Dinner began with speeches. My father stood first, wearing a navy suit and the satisfied expression of a man who believed the room existed because he did. 40 years, he said, lifting his glass. 40 years with the woman who taught me taste, patience, and the difference between surviving and succeeding. People clapped. My mother dabbed at her eye. Then my father moved into the part of the speech that was not about marriage at all. As many of you know, Rosemere Hotel has always been more than a business to us. It is an institution, and I am proud to say we are closer than ever to securing the Belhaven Heritage Redevelopment Grant. The room brightened. The grant had been the talk of the town for months. Belhaven had created a major funding program to restore historic buildings downtown. The Rosemere Hotel was the most visible candidate. My parents had been trying to get approved for years. The grant would cover restoration, expansion, and a new events wing. It would save the hotel. That was the part my parents did not say out loud. The Rosemere looked elegant from the street, but behind the brass lamps and marble floors, the plumbing was failing, the roof leaked, and the old north wing had been closed for 6 months because of structural concerns. My father had been pretending everything was fine. He was very good at pretending. "We expect final word soon," he said. "And when that happens, this family steps into a new chapter." Everyone clapped again. My mother looked directly at Gavin. "My son has been helping your father with investor relations," she said proudly. Gavin lowered his head like a prince, accepting modest praise. I sipped my water. No one looked at me, not my mother, not my father, not Gavin. Nobody knew that the final recommendation for that grant had crossed my desk 2 weeks earlier. Nobody knew that the Rosemere's North Wing had not been rejected because of politics, delays, or bad luck. It had been rejected because the engineering report my father submitted was incomplete, outdated, and dangerously optimistic. Nobody knew that I had spent the last 8 months working with Belhaven's Historical Infrastructure Board as the independent preservation engineer. Nobody knew that my signature was on the corrected plan that could still save the hotel. And nobody knew that the folder my mother had tossed onto the gift table contained the approval packet, the revised structural certification, and 2 VIP invitations to the official grant announcement ceremony. I had driven 3 hours with that folder because I wanted to give my parents one final chance, one clean chance. No argument, no performance, just proof, handed quietly. If they opened it, I would know there was still something soft left in them. If they laughed at it, I would know something else. I would know I was finally free. After dinner, my mother moved from table to table, collecting compliments. She had always been most alive when people were watching her. My father stood near the bar with Gavin and 3 investors, talking loudly about expansion plans that had not been approved yet. I stayed in the back. That was when Elise came over. Elise was Gavin's wife. She had perfect hair, perfect nails, and the kind of smile that always arrived 1 second too late to be sincere. "Mara," she said, "I heard you're still doing inspections. Engineering consulting." "Right. That." She glanced at my jacket. Mostly manual stuff? No. Mostly structural assessment, preservation planning, grant compliance, and failure analysis. She blinked. That sounds specific. It is. Well, she said, lowering her voice, at least you're busy. At least the family translation of that sentence was simple. At least you are not completely useless. My mother joined us before I could respond. Elise, darling, the photographer wants a picture of you and Gavin near the staircase. Then she looked at me. Mara, could you check whether the dessert plates are out? I looked at the servers moving efficiently through the ballroom. They seemed to have it handled. Her smile froze. It would be helpful if you made yourself useful. Elise looked away, pretending to adjust her bracelet. I stood there for 1 second, too long. Then I said, of course. Because that was the old language my body still spoke, even when my mind knew better. I checked the dessert plates. They were fine. Everything was fine. That was the whole problem. The folder sat untouched on the gift table through dinner, speeches, photos, cake cutting, and the champagne toast. No one opened it. No one asked about it. Once, a little girl reached for the brass clasp, and my mother gently moved it out of her reach. Not that, sweetheart, she said. That's just Mara's. Just Mara's. 2 words. Entire history. At 9 o'clock, my father tapped his spoon against his glass. Before we finished the evening, he said, Vivian and I would like to open a few gifts. People gathered around. Gavin and Elise's gift was opened first. It was a weekend spa package at a resort 2 hours away. My mother gasped as if she had been given a crown. My father hugged Gavin hard and said, that's my boy. Then came crystal candlesticks from Aunt Lorna. A frame painting from Uncle Pete. A silver serving tray from some hotel investor, whose name I never remembered. Then Jessa said, what about Mara's folder? The air shifted. Not much, just enough. My mother's eyes flicked toward the gift table. Oh, she said. Yes, that. She picked it up by the edge. Did you make this? I restored it. Of course you did. A small laugh moved through the nearest cluster of relatives. My father took the folder from her, turned it over once, and handed it back. Light, he said. It has documents inside. My mother raised her eyebrows. Documents? Yes, on our anniversary? It matters to the hotel. That got my father's attention for half a second. Then Gavin spoke from behind him. Probably one of Mara's little project summaries. People laughed again, not loudly. Worse than that. Politely, my mother patted the folder. We'll look later. Open it now, I said. The words came out calmly, too calmly. My mother looked at me like I had broken a rule. Mara, not everything needs to be dramatic. It is not dramatic. It is important. My father sighed. There it is. I looked at him. There what is? The tone, he said. The wounded tone. We are not doing this tonight. My mother placed the folder back on the gift table. But Jessa's phone was already in her hand. I noticed the red recording dot, so did Elise. Her smile faded. My mother turned back toward the guests, but something in her posture changed. She was preparing. My mother did not stumble into cruelty. She arranged it first. Mara, she said softly. I know you wanted to contribute something, and that is sweet. But this is a real event, with real guests, and real business attached to it. I felt the room begin to gather itself around us. My father folded his arms. Gavin looked at the floor. Elise took half a step back, like someone avoiding spilled wine. My mother continued. You cannot keep arriving at family milestones with little handmade things and expect everyone to pretend it is enough. I said nothing. She took that as permission. You are 34. You rent a small apartment. You drive a dirty truck. You never bring anyone with you. You never explain your work in a way that makes sense. Your brother is helping this family move forward, and you... She stopped. That pause was not mercy. It was aim. You drift, she said. You drift through life, and then you look wounded when people notice. The room was silent now. 30 people. Nobody spoke. My father picked up the folder and pushed it across the gift table toward me. We do not need another pity gift, he said. Take it home. There it was. The sentence that ended one life and began another. I looked at the folder, then I laughed. A real laugh, not because it was funny, because it was clear. For the first time in my life, I understood that my parents had not failed to see me by accident. They had chosen not to look. I picked up the folder and held it against my chest. Before I take it home, I said, I have one question. My father's jaw tightened. I looked at him. Dad, when you submitted the Rosemere Hotel grant paperwork, did you ever read the final engineering review? His face changed. Only slightly, but I saw it. What are you talking about? The Heritage Redevelopment Grant, I said. Did you read the engineering review attached to your application? My mother's eyes narrowed. Mara, stop! I opened the brass clasp. No, I said. I think I am finally going to start. And for the first time all evening, everyone looked at the folder. The thing about truth is that it does not need a loud entrance. Sometimes it just waits in a folder while everyone in the room proves why they were never trusted with it. I opened the folder slowly. The brass clasp clicked. It was not a dramatic sound, but in that ballroom, it felt like a door unlocking. Inside were 3 sections. The first was a letter from the Belhaven Historical Infrastructure Board. The second was a corrected engineering certification for the Rosemere Hotel. The third was an invitation packet for the public grant announcement ceremony, scheduled for 2 days later. My father stared at the papers. My mother stared at my face. Gavin stopped pretending not to listen. I lifted the first document. This is the preliminary approval letter for the Heritage Redevelopment Grant, I said. My mother blinked. What? The Rosemere Hotel was approved for conditional restoration funding last Friday. My father stepped forward. Give me that. I did not move. You knew? He said. Yes. His voice hardened. How? I held up the second document. Because I was the independent preservation engineer assigned to the review. The room made a sound, not a gasp, exactly. More like 30 people inhaling at different speeds. My father's face went red. That is impossible. It is not. Gavin's eyes moved from me to the folder to our father. Elise whispered, Preservation engineer? My mother reached for the table behind her. Fingers gripping the edge, I continued because stopping would have been worse. Belhaven contracted my firm 8 months ago to review structural risk in historic properties applying for redevelopment funding. I reviewed 6 buildings downtown. Rosemere was one of them. My father pointed at me. You never told us. I told you I was working on downtown preservation assessments. That does not mean you were working on our hotel. I was under a conflict of interest disclosure. I could not discuss the details until the review was complete. My mother's voice came thin and sharp. You let us sit here talking about the grant all night. You let me sit beside the children's table all night. Silence. Jessa lowered her phone slightly, eyes wide. Aunt Lorna covered her mouth. One of my father's investors took a slow step away from him. I placed the approval letter on the table. The hotel was almost rejected, I said. The original report submitted with the application understated the north wing damage. The city considered the application unreliable. My father's face twisted. That report came from Harlan & Co. They are respected. They missed active settlement in the northwest corner. They also used a roof load assumption that does not match the current code. That is technical nonsense. It is the reason your application was nearly denied. My father opened his mouth, then closed it. Because in that moment, he knew something I had not yet said. He had not read the report. He had paid for it, attached it, submitted it, and bragged about the grant for months. But he had not read the details. He had assumed confidence would do the rest. Confidence had carried him a long way in life. But buildings do not care how confident you are. I lifted the corrected certification. I did not approve the false version. I submitted a conditional path forward. Phase 1 stabilization. Roof reinforcement. Limited reopening of the north wing only after inspection. The board accepted it. That is why the grant is still alive. My mother looked at the papers like they were written in another language. So the hotel is approved? Conditionally. My father reached again, then handed over. I stepped back. No. His eyes flashed. No, no, Mara, my mother said, suddenly softer. Sweetheart, this is family business. That word. Sweetheart. She had not used it once when she thought I was useless. I looked at her. It became family business when you called me a charity case in front of this room. Her cheeks colored. I was upset. You were performing. A few people looked down because they knew it was true. My father's voice dropped. Do not humiliate your mother. I almost smiled. Dad, she just spent 5 minutes humiliating me. That is different. Because I am used to it? He said nothing. That silence answered more than words could have. I took out the third section, 2 cream-colored invitations embossed with the city's seal and Rosmere's historic logo. These were for you, I said. My mother's eyes locked onto them. The grant announcement ceremony, I said. Front row seats, city officials, board members, press. Private reception afterward. I arranged for the hotel owners to be recognized during the remarks. My father swallowed. Gavin whispered, "Front row?" I nodded. I brought these tonight because I wanted you to have them in a folder that belonged to Grandma Ellison. I repaired it because I thought maybe the family history would mean something. My mother's eyes glistened, but I had seen my mother cry in public before. Her tears often arrived before accountability. I was not moved yet. I wanted to give you a chance, I said. Not to praise me, not to apologize, just to open something I brought and ask what it was. Nobody spoke. You could not do that. My father's anger returned because anger was easier than shame. You had no right to keep this from me. I had every professional obligation to keep it confidential until final clearance. I am your father. You are the applicant. He flinched as if the word had insulted him. Applicant. Not patriarch. Not owner. Not respected businessman. Applicant. A man whose paperwork had been reviewed by the daughter he treated like an errand runner. My mother stepped closer. Mara, please. People are watching. Yes, I said. That seems to matter now. Elise reached for Gavin's hand. He did not take it. Something was happening to my brother's face. The practiced ease was gone. Under it was exhaustion. I had noticed the signs for months. Late payments on his office lease. His car parked suspiciously far from home. Elise making expensive claims with nervous timing. My father pretending Gavin's business was thriving because the alternative would ruin the family mythology. But Gavin was not the point tonight. I would not use his failure to prove my worth. That was my parents' language, not mine. My father pointed toward the folder. You will give me those documents. No? Mara. No, I said again. And the second time was easier. My mother's expression broke into panic. What do you mean no? The hotel needs that grant. The hotel has a path forward. The documents are already filed with the board. You will receive official copies through the proper channel. When? Tomorrow morning. My father stared. Then why bring these? I looked at the folder in my hands. Because these were not just copies. These were your invitations. I placed the 2 embossed cards back inside. Were? My mother whispered. Yes, I said. Were. The room froze. My father's face hardened. Do not be ridiculous. I am not being ridiculous. You are punishing us. No, I said. I am responding to information. What information? I looked around the ballroom. The chandeliers, the roses, the guests pretending not to stare. The gift table full of expensive things my mother had praised with both hands. Then I looked back at my parents. You showed me exactly what you think I am when you believed I had nothing to offer. My mother shook her head. That is not fair. It is the first fair thing that has happened tonight. Aunt Lorna whispered. Vivian? My mother snapped. Not now. Then she looked back at me with a face she probably thought was wounded. Mara, we are your parents. I know. Then you do not get to do this. That is where you are wrong. I closed the folder. The sound of the clasp echoed. These seats will go to people who treated my work seriously before it had a city seal on it. My father scoffed. Who? Mrs. Alvarez from the archive office, who helped me find the original Rosemere drawings. Mr. Penn from maintenance, who told the truth about the leaks even after you told him to keep quiet. My father's face drained. The investors looked at him. My mother turned sharply. Roland? He did not answer. I kept my voice calm, and one seat will remain empty for Grandma. My mother's eyes filled again. This time, something real flickered there. Grandma Ellison had been the only person in that family who understood quiet work. She had sewn curtains for the hotel lobby, back when my parents were only renting office space above a bakery. She patched uniforms, hemmed tablecloths, and made the original Navy staff folders by hand. The folder I held had been hers. My mother knew that. She had simply not cared until it became valuable. Mara, she said, I did not know. You did not ask. That sentence landed harder than I expected because it was the whole story. People say they do not know you. Like ignorance is an accident, but sometimes ignorance is maintained. Sometimes not knowing is a habit people protect because knowing would require them to change. My father reached for the folder sent last time. I stepped away. He looked around the room and realized everyone had seen it. His hand dropped. I put the folder under my arm. I am leaving now. My mother whispered, You cannot walk out of our anniversary dinner. I can. Mara, please. That please almost got me. Not because it was kind, because I had spent 34 years wanting to hear it, but the child inside me wanted a different please. Please stay, because we love you. Please forgive us because we were wrong. Please let us learn who you are. Not please stay because people are watching. So I turned to Gavin. For 1 second, we looked at each other the way we had when we were kids hiding under the dining table while our parents fought about bills. He looked ashamed. I hoped he would do something with that feeling one day. Then I looked at Jessa. She had tears in her eyes and her phone in her hand. I shook my head once. Not public. She nodded. I walked past the center table, past the roses, past the cake no one was eating anymore, and toward the ballroom doors. Behind me, my father said, Mara. I stopped. His voice was smaller now. Let us talk privately. I turned back. No, I said. You made your opinion public. You can sit with the correction publicly too. Then I walked out. The hotel lobby was quiet after the ballroom. The marble floor reflected the chandelier light. The old brass lamps buzzed softly. Rain tapped against the front windows, turning the streetlights outside into gold smears. I stood there for a moment with the folder against my chest, breathing like I had just climbed out of deep water. Jessa came through the doors behind me. She did not speak at first. She just stood beside me. Then she said, I recorded it. I know. I will not post it. Thank you. But I am keeping it. You should. She wiped under one eye with the back of her hand. You were amazing. No, I said. I was tired. She gave a small laugh. Maybe that is the same thing sometimes. We stepped outside into the rain. I walked to my truck at the side entrance. My mother had made me use that door earlier because she did not want guests seeing my dirty boots in the lobby. Now I was grateful. The side entrance led straight to the alley, away from the ballroom windows, away from the faces, away from a life that had been arranged to keep me small. I opened my truck door and placed Grandma's folder on the passenger seat. For a moment, I rested my hand on it. The leather was warm from my body. Inside were invitations my parents no longer deserved, copies of documents they had mocked before understanding, and the proof that I had not been drifting. I had been building. Jessa stood under the awning. Are you okay to drive? Yes. You sure? No, I said, but I am driving anyway. She nodded. I started the truck. As I pulled out of the alley, I saw my father through the hotel's side window. He was standing in the service corridor, one hand against the wall, head lowered. For the first time in my life, he looked like a man who had entered a building and discovered the foundation did not belong to him. The next morning, The first phone call came at 6:42. Then another at 6:45. Then another at 6:51. By noon, phone had 37 missed calls. By sunset, the Rosemere Hotel had a bigger problem than a daughter who had walked out. And by the following afternoon, my father finally learned that the grant was not the only thing he had almost lost. I did not sleep much that night. Not because I regretted leaving. Regret feels like wanting to go back and change something. This was different. This was grief. I was grieving the version of my parents I had kept alive in my head. The version that would one day understand. The version that would soften with age. The version that would open the folder, see my name, and say, "Mara, why didn't we know?" But morning has a way of making fantasy look foolish. At 6:42, my mother called. I let it ring. At 6:45, my father called. I let it ring. At 6:51, Gavin called. That one I almost answered, but I did not. I made coffee. I fed my cat. I sat at my kitchen table in sweatpants, with Grandma's folder lying in front of me like evidence from a trial I had not asked to attend. The first voicemail was from my mother. "Mara, this has gone far enough. You embarrassed your father in front of investors. I know you were upset, but you need to call me immediately." The second was from my father. "We need those invitations. This is not a game." The third was my mother again. "People are asking questions. Aunt Lorna has already called twice. Do not discuss family business with anyone." The fourth was Gavin. He sounded different. "Mara, it's me. I am not calling about the invitations. I should have said something last night. I am sorry. Call me when you can." I played that one twice, then I set the phone face down. By 10, Jessa texted. "I kept the video private, but Aunt Lorna is telling everyone. Brace yourself." I typed back. "Asterisk, what is she saying?" Jessa replied. Asterisk, that your parents nearly threw away the grant approval because the folder wasn't expensive enough. Asterisk, I stared at the screen, then I laughed for the second time in 12 hours. Aunt Lorna had always been a gossip, but gossip is not always false. Sometimes gossip is truth with better distribution. By noon, the story had reached half the family. By 2, it had reached people who were not related to us. By 4, a city council assistant emailed me using the tone professionals use when they know there is personal drama but want to pretend they do not. "Good afternoon, Ms. Ellison. Confirming your attendance at tomorrow's grant announcement. Please advise whether the Rosemere owner representatives remain on the guest list." I read the email 3 times. Then I answered carefully. Asterisk, good afternoon. Please keep Rosemere ownership on the standard applicant notification list. Remove the 2 private front row guest seats under Vivian and Roland Ellison. Replace with Carmen Alvarez and Silas Penn. Thank you. I clicked send. No anger, no shaking hands. Just administrative truth. Sometimes changing your life looks like one calm email. At 5, Gavin knocked on my apartment door. I knew it was him before I opened it because he knocked like he owed money. 3 quick taps, pause, 2 softer ones. When we were kids, Gavin had been fearless. He climbed trees, jumped fences, talked back to teachers, and convinced me that thunder was just clouds moving furniture. Then our parents discovered he was charming, and charm became his job. He stood in my hallway wearing yesterday's suit pants and a wrinkled shirt. No watch. No confident smile. No Elise. "You look terrible," I said. "I feel worse." I stepped aside. He came in and looked around my apartment. Not in judgment. More like he was seeing it for the first time. My apartment was small, yes. 1 bedroom, old brick walls, plants on the windowsill, drafting table near the balcony, books stacked everywhere. It was not glamorous, but every object in it belonged to me because I had chosen it. Gavin sat at my kitchen table. His eyes went to Grandma's folder. "I did not know," he said. I poured him coffee. "You did not ask." He winced. I deserved that. I sat across from him. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "Dad's investors are nervous," I assumed. He told them the grant was basically secured because of his relationship with the board. He does not have a relationship with the board. I know that now. I watched his hands around the coffee mug. What do you need, Gavin? He looked up quickly. Nothing. I swear, I did not come here to ask for help. Then why are you here? He exhaled. Because last night I saw you walk out, and I realized I have wanted to do that for 10 years. That surprised me. Gavin laughed without humor. I know. Poor Gavin, right? Golden boy with the Mercedes and the main table seat. I did not say anything. You did not need to. He rubbed both hands over his face. The Mercedes is leased under Dad's company. Elise and I separated 2 months ago. We are pretending until after the holiday season because Mom said she could not handle another family embarrassment. My consulting business has not made a profit in a year. Dad keeps introducing me as the future of the hotel because he cannot admit I am broke. The room seemed to shrink. I had suspected pieces, not all. Gavin? No, listen. I am not telling you so you feel sorry for me. I am telling you because last night, when Mom called you a charity case, I almost laughed. I frowned. He looked ashamed, not because it was funny. Because I am the charity case. I have been living inside their praise like it was a loan I could never repay. I said nothing. He continued. You built an actual career while they mocked you. I performed success while they applauded me. And somehow they called you the problem. The coffee machine clicked behind us. Outside my window, Belhaven's downtown lights flickered on one by one. I asked, why didn't you say anything? His eyes filled, but he did not cry. Because if they stopped looking at you, they might look at me. That was the most honest sentence my brother had ever said. It did not erase anything, but it explained the shape of some things. I looked at Grandma's folder between us. Gavin, I cannot carry you out of this. I know. I mean it. I know. You need to tell the truth yourself. He nodded. I came here to ask how. That was harder. Because I had spent years believing Gavin did not want freedom. Now I understood that he had mistaken his cage for a crown. Start with one person, I said. One true sentence. He looked at me. What was yours? I thought about it. Then I said, open it now. He smiled sadly. Mine might be, I am not okay. That will work. He left an hour later. Before he walked out, he paused by the door. Mom wants you to call the board and put the seats back. I know. Dad wants you to say last night was a misunderstanding. I know. Elise wants to know whether there will be press photos. That one made me laugh. Gavin laughed too, and for a second we were children again. Then his face grew serious. Mara, they are going to make you the villain. I know. Are you ready? I looked at Grandma's folder. Yes, I said. For once, I am. The next day, the grant announcement took place at the Belhaven Civic Hall. I wore a dark green suit and the small silver pin my grandmother used to wear on Sundays. Jessa came with me. So did Carmen Alvarez from the archive office, a 71-year-old woman with white hair, red lipstick, and a memory sharper than any database in the city. Silas Penn arrived in his maintenance uniform, even though I had told him he could wear anything. This is what I wore when I kept that north wing from flooding, he said. Might as well wear it when they finally admit it. I smiled. He had earned that seat. My parents arrived 10 minutes before the ceremony. I saw them from across the hall. My mother wore cream. My father wore a charcoal suit and the expression of a man holding his breath underwater. They were not in the front row. They stood near the side with the other applicant representatives. My mother saw Carmen and Silas sitting where she expected to sit. For 1 second, her face showed everything: shock, humiliation, anger, hurt. Then she smoothed it away, but I had already seen it. The ceremony began. The mayor spoke. The board chair spoke. A photographer moved along the aisle taking pictures. Then my name was called. As independent preservation engineer for the Downtown Review, Mara Ellison played a key role in identifying a safe and viable restoration path for several historic properties, including the Rosemere Hotel. Applause. I walked to the podium. I did not look at my parents at first. I looked at Carmen. She winked. I looked at Silas. He nodded. Then I looked at the room. Historic buildings survive because someone tells the truth about them, I said. Not the romantic truth. Not the profitable truth. The structural truth. My father's face tightened. Sometimes a building looks beautiful from the street while carrying damage inside. Sometimes people love the story of a place so much they stop listening to what the walls are saying. The room was quiet. I could feel my mother watching me. But preservation is not pretending decay does not exist. Preservation is respect plus repair. It is saying, this matters enough to strengthen properly. That is the work. I paused. The city has chosen to strengthen what it values. I hope every owner receiving this grant does the same. I stepped back. The applause was polite at first, then stronger. Carmen stood, Sela stood, Jessa stood. After a moment, others did too. Not everyone. Not my parents. But enough. When the ceremony ended, the board chair shook my hand. The mayor asked for a photo. Carmen cried openly and ruined her lipstick. Silas pretended there was dust in his eye. My parents waited until the crowd thinned before approaching. My mother spoke first. You looked very professional. It was such a small offering that I almost missed how much it cost her. Thank you. My father looked at the folder under my arm. You made your point. No, I said. I made my boundary. His jaw moved. The old him wanted to argue. The new situation advised against it. My mother said, people are congratulating us. As hotel owners, they should. They keep mentioning you. As the engineer, they should. She looked down. For the first time, my mother seemed unable to decide whether my success belonged to her. That was new. My father lowered his voice. I need to know whether the board will continue monitoring the North Wing. Yes. How closely? Closely enough. He nodded once. It was not gratitude, but it was acknowledgement. For my father, that was a foreign language. Then my mother said the sentence that almost broke me. I kept thinking about your grandmother last night. I looked at her. She would have opened the folder, my mother said. No defense, no excuse. Just that, I felt my throat tighten. Yes, I said. She would have. My mother's eyes shone. Before she could say anything else, Elise appeared beside us. She wore bright red lipstick and a smile too large for the moment. Mara, she said. Congratulations. We were all so shocked. Jessa, standing behind her, muttered, that is one word. Elise ignored her. The photographer asked for family photos. We should do one together. You know, for the hotel page. And there it was. The shift. From embarrassment to asset, from charity case to marketing opportunity, my mother's face changed. Not fully, but enough. She looked at Elise, then at me. No, my mother said. Everyone froze. Elise blinked. I'm sorry? My mother's voice was quiet. Not today. It was not a grand defense. It was not an apology. But it was a line. Small, wobbly, late, still a line. Elise's smile tightened. Of course. She walked away. My father watched her go, then looked at Gavin across the hall. Gavin stood alone near the coffee table, hands in his pockets, staring at the floor. Something in my father's face shifted. The golden sun was losing his shine, and the daughter he had dismissed had just held a room. That kind of reversal does not heal a family. It exposes it. By evening, the local paper had posted photos from the ceremony. My name was in the caption. So was the Rosemere Hotel. By midnight, the hotel's social media page had dozens of comments congratulating my parents on their daughter's work. By morning, the questions started. Why had they never mentioned I was involved? Why had Gavin been presented as the hotel's redevelopment lead? Why was the maintenance supervisor seated in the front row instead of the owners? And then someone uploaded a short clip from the anniversary dinner. Not Jessa, not me, someone else. The clip did not show everything, just my father pushing the folder back and saying, take it home. Then me at the grant ceremony, being introduced as the preservation engineer. 2 scenes, 1 truth. By noon, the clip had spread through Belhaven. By sunset, my parents' perfect public story had cracks all the way through it. On the second morning after the dinner, I woke to a text from Jessa. St. Do not check Facebook unless you have coffee first. So naturally, I checked Facebook before coffee. The clip had been shared hundreds of times locally, not viral in the global sense. Worse, local viral. The kind where your former teachers, your dentist, the woman who cuts your mother's hair, and the mayor's assistant all see it before lunch. The caption on the most shared post read, "Imagine calling your daughter's work a pity gift, then finding out she saved your hotel." I put the phone down. Then I made coffee. By 9, my mother called. I answered, not because I was ready, because I was tired of being chased by a ringtone. "Mara," she said. Her voice was different, no performance. No command, just a woman standing in the ruins of her own certainty. "Mom. Did you post that video?" "No." "Did Jessa?" "No." A pause. "Do you know who did?" "No." That was true. Later, I learned it was one of Gavin's investors. He had recorded part of the confrontation because he thought my father's behavior might affect their business relationship. People often discover morality when money is nearby. My mother exhaled. "Your father is furious. I assumed." "He says this is destroying the hotel's reputation." "No," I said. "The video is damaging the hotel's reputation. His behavior is what created the video." Silence, then quietly, "That sounds like something your grandmother would say." I closed my eyes. "Please do not use Grandma to soften this." "You are right," she said. I opened my eyes. "That was unexpected." She continued. "I do not know how to talk to you right now." "Start there." "I was ashamed yesterday," she said, "at the ceremony. Not because of you, because of me." I gripped the coffee mug. I saw Carmen Alvarez sitting in the front row, and I hated her for about 10 seconds. "Mom, I know how that sounds." But then I realized I hated her because she had done something I did not do. She saw your work before it became useful to her. I said nothing. My mother's voice trembled. "I have spent so long trying to make this family look secure that I forgot security is not the same as love." That sentence was either the beginning of something real or the best performance of her life. I did not know which yet, so I stayed careful. "What do you want from me?" "I want to come over." "No." The answer left my mouth before guilt could edit it. She went quiet. I softened my voice, not my boundary. "Not yet." "Okay," she whispered. That one word did more than a speech would have. Okay. No argument. No guilt. No after everything I have done. Just okay. Maybe people can change. But change is not a door they walk through once. It is a hallway. My father called an hour later. His call was different. "Mara, this thing has gone too far." I almost hung up. Then I remembered my own rule. One chance for truth. "I am listening. I have clients calling me asking whether the grant is at risk." "Is it?" "No." "Then tell them that. They are asking whether I lied about Gavin's role." "Did you?" He breathed hard through his nose. "That is not the point. It is exactly the point. Mara, I am trying to protect this family." "No," I said. "You are trying to protect the version of this family that obeys you." He swore under his breath. The old me would have flinched. The new me waited. Finally, he said, "What do you want me to do?" That was the question. Not because I wanted revenge, because for once, he was asking instead of deciding. "Tell the truth." "To who?" "To whoever asks. That Gavin was not leading the redevelopment?" "Yes." "That you were involved?" "Yes." "That I did not know?" I paused. "No." "That you did not ask." The line went quiet. When he spoke again, the anger had drained, leaving something heavier. "You really hate me that much?" "No." "Then why does it feel like you are trying to ruin me?" "Because you built a life where my honesty feels like an attack." He had no answer. For once, he did not manufacture one. We ended the call without resolution, but also without shouting. That was new. That afternoon, Gavin came back. This time he looked cleaner, but more afraid. "I told Dad," he said, as soon as I opened the door. "Told him what?" "Everything." I stepped aside. He walked in and stood in the middle of my living room like he did not deserve furniture. Elise left last night. For real this time. She said she refuses to be attached to a collapsing brand. That sounds like Elise. He almost smiled. I told Dad the Mercedes is leased through the business. I told him the investor presentations were exaggerated. I told him I used the hotel office address to make my consulting firm look bigger than it was. I waited, he swallowed. I told him I borrowed money from Mom. How much? 80,000. I sat down slowly. Gavin, I know. Does Dad know? Now he does. How did he react? He stared at me for a long time and then asked whether the hotel was exposed legally. Of course. Not are you okay, not how did this happen. Not what do you need. Is the hotel exposed? Gavin gave a humorless laugh. And the worst part is, I was relieved. Because it meant he believed me. I looked at my brother and saw the same house from a different room. My cage had been dismissal. His had been expectation, both locked from the outside. What will you do? I asked. I am meeting with a bankruptcy attorney tomorrow. Good. I am moving out of the condo. Good. I am telling Mom the truth tonight. That will be harder, he nodded. Then he looked at me with wet eyes. Mara, I am sorry I let them use me against you. That was the apology I had not known I needed. Not polished, not defensive, just true. I am sorry I resented you for surviving it differently, I said. He sat down then. For the first time in years, my brother and I talked without performing for invisible parents. We talked about Grandma. About how she used to hum while sewing. About how she kept peppermints in her purse and slipped us 2 each during church. About how she once told my mother, "A child is not a brochure for your success." I had forgotten that Gavin had not. When he left, he hugged me, an awkward hug at first. Then real. After he left, I opened Grandma's folder. Inside the back pocket was something I had not shown anyone. A photograph, Grandma Ellison standing in the Rosemere lobby in 1983, holding a stack of navy folders she had sewn for the first hotel staff orientation. My mother stood beside her at 22, hair feathered, eyes bright with hunger and fear. On the back, Grandma had written, asterisks, build a place people can enter with dignity. That includes your own children. I had found the photo tucked inside the folder lining when I restored it. At first, I thought I would give it to my mother. Then the anniversary dinner happened. Now I was not sure. That evening, my mother called again. I spoke to Gavin, she said. How was that? A long pause. I failed both of you in opposite ways. I did not respond. She cried then, quickly, not the public tears. Not the useful tears. These had no audience. I thought if I praised him enough, he would become safe, she said. I thought if I pushed you hard enough, you would become safe. I thought fear was parenting. My throat tightened. Mom. I am not asking you to comfort me, she said quickly. I know I do that. I make people comfort me before I change. I am trying not to. That sentence mattered because it was specific. Real accountability is specific. It does not say mistakes were made. It says, here is the weapon I used, and here is how I am putting it down. What happens now? She asked. I do not know. Can I earn a conversation? Maybe. What does that mean? It means you do not get immediate access because you feel sorry. She inhaled shakily. Okay. Again, okay. A small word. A new language. The next day was the private reception for the grant recipients. I almost did not go, not because I was afraid, but because I was exhausted by being visible. But Carmen texted me a photo of herself wearing a royal blue dress and the message, do not make me waste this outfit. Asterisk, so I went. The reception was at the Rosemere. My parents had insisted the hotel could still host, and the board agreed after confirming the event would remain in the safe sections of the building. I arrived through the front entrance this time. No side door, no kitchen hallway, no apology for my boots, because I was not wearing boots. I wore black heels, a charcoal coat, and Grandma's silver pin. The lobby looked beautiful. It always had. That was the danger of beautiful things. They can convince you they are whole. My mother stood near the staircase greeting guests. When she saw me, she went still. Then she walked toward me, not fast, not dramatic, just steadily. "You came," she said. "I was invited." She nodded. "Yes, you were." My father stood behind her. He looked older than he had 3 days ago. Public correction ages certain men quickly. For a moment, none of us spoke. Then my father said, "The front entrance suits you." It was such a strange sentence that I almost laughed, but I understood what he meant. He meant, "I saw you come in the front door." He meant, "I know I made you use the side one." He meant, "I do not know how to apologize yet, but I noticed." So I said, "Thank you." The reception began. People congratulated my parents. People congratulated me. Some people clearly knew about the video and tried not to look too curious. Carmen held court near the archive display. Silas ate 3 plates of shrimp and told anyone who listened that the North Wing had been complaining for years. Then the board chair asked my father to say a few words as owner of the Rosemere. My mother stiffened. My father walked to the small podium. I braced myself. He looked at the guests, then at the hotel, then at me. "For years," he said, "I have told people this hotel was saved by vision." He gripped the podium. That was only partly true. The room quieted. "It is being saved by work, by people who looked closely when I preferred broad statements, by people who told the truth about damage, even when the truth was inconvenient." His eyes moved to Silas, by staff who protected this building. Then to Carmen, by historians who remembered what we forgot. Then to me, and by an engineer I should have recognized sooner. My heart stopped. He did not say daughter. Not yet. Maybe he could not. Maybe that word carried too much. But he said engineer in front of the room. For my father, that was not everything. But it was not nothing. He stepped away from the podium. Applause moved gently through the room. My mother wiped her eyes. I stood still. Something inside me shifted, but it did not unlock completely. Healing is not a movie scene. One decent speech does not erase years of folding chairs, but it can mark the first honest brick in a new wall. After the reception, my mother found me near the old lobby desk. "I have something for you," I said. Her eyes widened. I opened Grandma's folder and took out the photograph. She accepted it carefully. When she turned it over and read Grandma's words, her face collapsed. Not publicly, not theatrically. Privately. She pressed the photo to her chest and turned away from the room. "I forgot this," she whispered. "I think she hoped you would remember." My mother nodded, crying silently. Then she did something she had not done in years. She touched my face with her hand, not to correct my hair, not to check my makeup, just to touch me. "I am sorry," she said, 2 words. "Sybil, late, not enough. But real." "I know," I said. "Not I forgive you, not yet, just I know, because that was the truth. And truth was the only foundation I trusted now." The Rosemere Hotel did not magically recover after that week. Buildings do not heal because people cry in lobbies. Families do not either. The North Wing still needed stabilization. The roof still needed reinforcement. My father still hated being corrected in meetings. My mother still sometimes tried to manage feelings like table settings. Gavin still had debt, shame, and a long legal road ahead. And me? I still had mornings when I heard my mother's voice in my head before my own. That is the part people do not like to admit. Walking out is powerful. Staying gone inside your own mind is harder. For weeks after the anniversary dinner, strangers stopped me downtown. Some were kind. Some were curious. Some wanted details because other people's pain makes excellent entertainment when it is not yours. I learned to say, "Thank you for your concern," and keep walking. Jessa told me I sounded like a press secretary. I told her that was better than sounding like a wound. The city moved forward with the grant projects. Rosemere entered Phase 1 restoration in March. The North Wing was closed properly, not hidden. Silas was promoted to Facilities Operations Manager after 3 board members asked why the man who knew the building best did not have authority to protect it. Carmen Alvarez curated a lobby exhibit about the hotel's original workers, including seamstresses, cooks, porters, maintenance men, and front desk clerks, whose names had never appeared in glossy brochures. At the center of the exhibit was a display of Navy staff folders. One of them was Grandma's, not mine, the original. My mother asked before displaying it. That mattered. She called me and said, "Would this feel like taking something from you?" I sat with the question for a moment. "No," I said. "Not if Grandma's name is there. It will be. And not if the display mentions she made them. It will. And not if you turn her into decoration." My mother went quiet. Then she said, "Will you help me write it correctly?" That mattered too. We wrote the display card together. It said Eleanor Ellison, seamstress and founding staff member, created the first Rosemere guest service folders by hand. Her work represents the labor, skill, and quiet craftsmanship behind the hotel's public elegance. Asterisk, my mother wanted to add, "beloved mother and grandmother." I said no. Not because it was untrue, because women like Grandma are too often remembered only by who loved them, not by what they made. My mother accepted the edit, another brick. Gavin filed for bankruptcy in April. He moved into a small apartment across town and started working as operations coordinator for a logistics company. It was not glamorous. It did not come with a luxury car or investor dinners, but he sounded lighter on the phone. One Saturday, he came with me to visit Grandma's grave. We brought no flowers. Grandma had hated cut flowers. "Bring me something with roots," she used to say. "At least give the poor thing a chance." So we planted lavender. Gavin knelt in the dirt beside me, sleeves rolled up, hair falling into his face. "Do you think she would be disappointed in me?" he asked. "No." He looked over. "You answered too fast, because I know." "How?" I pressed soil around the plant. Grandma was never impressed by people pretending to stand. She cared whether they got up honestly. Gavin nodded. Then he said, "I told Dad I am not coming back to the hotel." "How did he take it?" "He said I was abandoning the family." "And?" I said, "No, I am leaving the stage." I laughed. Grandma would have loved that. My father and I took longer. Of course we did. My father was a man who had used authority as a shelter for so long that apology felt to him like standing outside in bad weather. He tried, badly at first. He sent articles about structural engineering with messages like, "Thought this may interest you." Asterisk. Most of them were 5 years old or barely related to my field, but I understood the effort. He asked about projects and interrupted with suggestions that made no sense. I learned to say, "Do you want to understand this, or do you want to advise me?" The first time, he got offended and ended the call. The second time, he paused and said, "Understand." Another brick. In May, he asked me to walk through the Rosemere North Wing with him before the contractors began reinforcement work. Professionally, it was not my project anymore. The city had assigned the implementation phase to another firm to avoid conflicts. Personally, I knew what he was asking. He wanted to see the building through my eyes, so I went. We wore hard hats and walked through the closed corridor where wallpaper peeled near the ceiling and sunlight cut through dust in the air. My father pointed to a cracked plaster line near a window. "Is that bad?" "It depends. I hate when engineers say that. We say it because buildings deserve context." He nodded slowly. At the northwest corner, we stopped near the area that had nearly failed the application. I showed him the settlement pattern, the old repair marks, the places where water had traveled behind beauty for years. He listened, actually listened. Then he said, "I thought if I admitted it was damaged, people would think I failed." I looked at him. "The damage got worse because you would not admit it." He stared at the wall. After a long time, he said, "That applies to more than the building, doesn't it?" I did not answer. He already knew. When we left the north wing, we exited through the side service door, the same door I had used the night of the anniversary dinner. My father stopped with his hand on the handle. "I made you come in this way," he said. Yes, his shoulders sank. I am sorry. No audience, no investors, no polished speech. Just my father, a service corridor, and the truth. This time I said, thank you. Still not forgiveness. But closer. The official reopening of the restored Rosemere North Wing happened 8 months after the anniversary dinner. This time, there was no question where I would sit. My mother called a week before. I want you at the family table, she said. I smiled into the phone. Is there a family table or a display table? She groaned softly. I deserved that. Yes, there is a family table, she said. And your place card is beside mine. I almost said yes immediately. That old hunger is stubborn. Instead, I asked, why? She was quiet. Then she said, because I want you near me. Not because people will see. Because I do. That was the correct answer. At the reopening, the lobby was full again. But different, the brass lamps had been restored. The marble floor had been cleaned, not replaced. The north wing doors stood open for the first time in over a year. Near the staircase, Grandma's exhibit drew a small crowd. Carmen had added archival photos. Silas had contributed maintenance logs. My mother had written a short note about invisible labor and the danger of mistaking polish for strength. I could hear Grandma laughing somewhere. My place card was at the center table. Mara Ellison. Not Mara, not just put her anywhere. My full name. I stood there looking at it longer than necessary. Jessa appeared beside me. You okay? I think so. You want me to record? I laughed. No. You sure? I brought storage. I am sure. My mother came over then. She wore navy, not cream, not gold. Navy, like Grandma's folders. She looked at my place card, then at me. I almost put you beside the mayor, she said. Why didn't you? Because I thought about what you said. What did I say? That being used is not the same as being included. I swallowed. My mother touched the back of the chair. So I put you beside me. The room blurred for a second. I sat, not because I had finally been allowed, because I had chosen to. There is a difference. During dinner, my father stood for a toast. People went quiet out of habit. He looked nervous, which was new and not unpleasant. Most of my life, he said. I thought strength meant never needing correction. He glanced at me. I was wrong. The room softened. This building is stronger because people told the truth about it. This family is still learning the same lesson. He lifted his glass. To the people who build carefully, to the people who repair honestly, and to Mara, who deserved the front door long before we opened it. Nobody breathed for a second, then applause, not wild, not theatrical, warm. My mother reached under the table and squeezed my hand. I let her. Later that night, after guests had gone and staff were clearing glasses, I walked alone to the old lobby desk. Grandma's folder was displayed in glass now. The navy leather caught the light softly. Beside it was her photograph. Beneath it, her name. For years, I thought being seen would feel like victory. It did not. It felt quieter than that. It felt like putting down a heavy bag I had forgotten I was carrying. My father came to stand beside me. For a while, we looked at the display without speaking. Then he said, I kept the side door locked tonight. I looked at him. Everyone came through the front. That could have sounded symbolic in a cheap way. But it did not, because he meant it literally. And sometimes literal repair is where symbolic repair begins. Good, I said. He nodded. After another moment, he added, the folder you brought that night. Do you still have it? Yes. What will you do with it? I thought about my apartment, my drafting table, the folder resting in the top drawer with copies of the first approval letter and Grandma's photo. I think I will keep it. He nodded again. You should. That was all. But it was enough for that moment. My parents and I are not a perfect family now. I do not trust sudden transformations. I trust patterns, slowly rebuilt. My mother still slips sometimes. She starts to manage, then catches herself. My father still struggles when he is not the loudest person in the room. Gavin still has hard months. I still have boundaries. But no one has called me a charity case since that night. No one seats me near the children's activity bags. No one asks me to use the side entrance. And if someone hands my mother something handmade now, she opens it with both hands. That is not a fairy tale ending. It is better. It is structural, because fairy tales end at the apology. Real life begins with the repair plan. So if you are listening to this while sitting in your own folding chair, your own back row seat, your own side entrance life, hear me clearly. You do not have to keep presenting evidence to people committed to misunderstanding you. You do not have to become impressive enough to earn basic respect. You do not have to wait until the room claps before you believe what you built is real. Some people will only open the vault shot after they learn what is inside. Let them be late. You are not late to yourself. My name is Ellison. I brought my parents a folder they refused to open. Inside was the truth, the future of their hotel, and the last version of me willing to beg for a seat. They pushed it back, so I walked out with it. And when I finally came through the front door again, I did not come as proof. I came as myself. If this story reminded you of someone who never saw you until others did, write one word in the comments: front door. And if you are still waiting for permission to stop explaining yourself, take this as your sign. Open your own door, walk through it, and do not shrink to fit a room that was never built to hold the truth.